The past few weeks has seen me feature a bunch of different portable power stations, but I've heard your comments. They're either too small, too big, too expensive, not enough outlets, so on and so on. Well, let me show you one last portable power station before the camping season kicks in, because just like Goldilocks, I think I found the perfect porridge that's just right. And it's this, the Bluetti AC200L. Now, for those who've actually delved into the product lineup from Bluetti, you may know of the AC200 Max. Now, I can't deny that calling this model the AC200L is slightly confusing. And that's because in my head, the word Max has connotations that's bigger and better than something that's L size. However, you'd be very wrong in that assumption, just like I was. The L is actually a souped-up version of the Max. Think of it as a Max 2.0, a sequel to the Max. But there are some caveats to this, so bear with me here. Now, to start, the wattage output has been upgraded from 2200 watt to 2400 watt for standard usage, but it now has a secret weapon up its sleeve, the powerlifting mode. This allows you to boost the power to a staggering 3600 watt output to enable you to power even higher powered appliances. Although that said, the capacity at just over 2000 watt hours, it'll run out of juice pretty quickly if you're using devices that require that much power. Now, I thought that was impressive enough because 3600 watt is more than what most people would need, but they had to take it one step further because there's this little feature they've included called surge power, which, well, funnily enough, surges the power. The AC200L is capable of boosting its output to 7,200 watts for a very short space of time. Now, the Max also had this, but only up to 4,800 watt, which I thought was more than enough. So, now that this can surge up to 7,200, I just don't know what to think. I own literally nothing that will drink that much power, even for a short period of time. It's probably enough to kickstart a small fusion reaction or something. It's crazy. But it's not just its output that has been upped significantly, but also its input as well. And boy, has it had an impact on how fast this thing can charge. The input is now 2400 watt, up from 500 watt on the AC200 Max. This means that it's capable of recharging to full in about an hour and a half with the turbocharge mode turned on in the app. That's a whopping 4.5 hours faster than the Max could recharge via the AC, which is crazy. That's the fastest I've ever seen a battery capacity of this size be able to charge. Obviously, this is only applicable for those that want to charge via AC though. If you're using it as part of an off-grid solution, you'll likely be using things like solar panels to recharge it. But those that are will be very pleased to know that solar input has also been upped and can charge the entire thing in just 2 hours, down from the 3.5 on the maximum solar input, which, if you ask me, makes a massive difference when it comes to using this off-grid, especially in Wales where the sun comes out only for 2 minutes a day. You're going to need every ounce of solar charging capability that you can muster. So that's a very pleasing update indeed. Another big update, and actually some new functionality, is the ability for it to be used as an uninterrupted power source, giving it utility outside of being just a portable power station. With the Max, it didn't have this, so outside of essentially using it in your van, camping, or an off-grid solution, for a lot of people it would just gather dust in between uses. With the UPS functionality, you can plug this into the mains and then plug other devices into it for this to act as a pass-through energy source and emergency uninterrupted power supply with a 20 millisecond switchover from the mains. It's this sort of tech that could prove crucial for those who rely on medical devices or have sensitive equipment that might end up having catastrophic failures in the event of a power cut or unexpected shutdown. And actually, there is a few different modes of UPS as well, with options to take from solar or the AC, even on a schedule, which is a very, very nice addition. But the best new feature, and something we are seeing a lot more, certainly from releases of power stations this year, is both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi app control. The Wi-Fi control on the Bluetti brings their battery technology up to date and allows you to essentially control remotely all of the ports on the device. This again allows a certain level of smart control, effectively bringing a bit of your smart home with you when you're camping, or going off grid, or perhaps even a romantic dinner for two? Darling, you know how you're always saying that I never surprise you. Well, how about a romantic meal for two? This is just a hell of a lot of fun. It brings smart control and allows you to use lights and electrics outside of the home that require 3-pin plugs in the middle of nowhere, so you can create wonderful scenes like this. Oh god. Oh no, your hands come off again. Now, in respect to its design, on the surface it doesn't actually look too dissimilar to the recipe they used in the Bluetti AC200 Max. It's certainly familiar with its colour scheme and large grab handles for moving, but if you pay close attention, there are some things which are notably different. Take the fact that it has a new colour screen which looks great and showcases the current load on various ports. And another new addition to the design are these little buttons just underneath the screen that light up to show when a particular type of output is being used. One design change that you might not notice is that this now has an internal power unit, meaning there's no gigantic external power brick like there was on the Max. All you need is this small cable if you want to charge straight from a wall outlet, which I'm very, very thankful for indeed, because I cannot begin to describe how much I hate external power bricks, specifically on products that are supposed to be portable. I think the internal thermals might have had a little bit of an overhaul too. Like all small portable power stations, when under heavy load it can be a little bit noisy when the fans kick in. Although that said, it's apparent the thermals are pretty well designed because it actually remains comparatively quiet when compared to others that I've tested before. Anyway, in terms of design, that would largely appear all that's different. Not really a revolutionary change, but some nice new additions. I mean, let's face it, there are only so many ways that a battery can look. However, there's one teeny tiny thing that I haven't mentioned yet about the design. And that's that despite all of these additional features and built-in power unit, it's smaller. But what's more is that despite being smaller, it's actually only around 200 grams heavier, making this more dense and better refined piece of kit. But this is where I think the caveat comes in that I mentioned right at the very start. Because of its slightly smaller size and the inbuilt power unit, it sacrificed a few of its outlets, so instead of the 14 on the Max, the L now has 10, not including the expansion slot, which is used to expand its total capacity with add-on batteries that Bluetti sell. There's 4 AC outlets, 2 DC outputs of different capabilities, and 2 USB-A and 2 USB-C ports. But to be honest, you won't really even know which outlets are gone, which goes a lot into saying that Bluetti probably knew they weren't being used that much on the Max. However, the two that I might end up missing were the wireless charging pads on the top that were present on the AC200 Max, but now, unfortunately, not on the L. I found these were quite useful as it meant you could use the battery as a mini nightstand for your phone when next to your camping bed, for example. You could essentially just drop your phone on the top like that and then it would begin charging. But if that's what I have to trade for the massive spec increase in terms of its output and input speed capabilities, along with the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth control, then I'm ultimately okay with this. Now, there are a few other things that they've removed, which I'll miss too. One of those is a touch screen. With the Max, you had access to most of the features through the inbuilt software, which wasn't the prettiest, but it was functional, whereas with their L, the screen is just a screen, which has an impact when it comes to the usability and accessibility of certain features. Now, some of the best things about the AC200L, such as its turbocharged mode and powerlifting modes, can now only be turned on in the app and therefore are completely reliant on you having access to a paired device at all times, which if you're off-grid or camping, you might not do so, so that's not ideal. It would have been good if Bluetti had maybe included an analog button for these alongside the others, considering the removal of the touch interface, and especially considering that you're probably going to want to use these features more often than not. And I guess the only other piece of feedback, or I guess desire for the next gen AC200, would be full smart control for each individual outlet, because as it is, the smart control, the app is slightly limited by the fact you can only control each type of output as a group rather than individual outlets separately. It's not a big deal, but it just means, say, if you have a heater and a television plugged in via the AC and you wanted to remotely turn the heater off but leave the TV on, you can't. They'd all go off at the same time, along with anything else plugged into the other two AC ports. So next time, Bluetti, I'd love to see full individual control of each outlet rather than grouped outlets. But I think these small pointers are just a drop in the ocean against all of the improvements that this has over its previous Bluetti power stations. Like I said at the very beginning, this is a great piece of kit that's real midpoint between a lot of the power stations that I've reviewed recently. It's not too big, it's not too small, it's not too heavy, and it has a ton of features that make it easily one of the most technologically advanced that I've tested so far. And if you need a 2 kWh battery, this is a fantastic option to go for. So, Bluetti, big round of applause for this one. Some absolutely cracking updates. What do you think? Is there anything else you'd like to see from the next generation? Let me and Bluetti, if they're watching this, know in the comments below. But other than that, guys, thank you very much for joining another episode of STU'S Reviews, and I'll see you back for another one soon.